Welcome to the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL daily. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. Erin Summers here. The Saints are at the Panthers this weekend. First game post-trade deadline that saw wide receiver Rashid Shaheed traded to the Seahawks and left guard Trevor Penning to the Chargers. Head coach Kellen Moore said that Mason Tipton, Devon Bailey, and Brandon Cooks will all see more time Sunday in that game in Charlotte. And guard Dylan Radins will start at left guard. Wide receiver Dante Pettis is being elevated from the practice squad to be used as a kick returner. Taliese Fuaga has been ruled out for Sunday's game. Awesome Richards will start in Fuaga's place at right tackle. 5 other players are questionable: Alvin Kamara, Jack Stoll, Jonah Williams, Barry Wesley, and Brian Brzee. The official list of inactives will come out an hour and a half before game time, so make sure you stay tuned to NewOrleansSaints.com for the latest information leading into Sunday's game against the Panthers. In today's podcast, I talked to former Saints and Panthers quarterback Jake Delhomme and NFL on Fox Sideline reporter Jen Hale, who will be on the call for this game on Sunday. Both share some great insight into this matchup and what we can expect against the Panthers. They're a 5-4 team, started the season 1-3, but they have been rolling a little bit better of late, and a lot of it is due to their defensive performance and a running back named Rico Dowdle. After we get the latest on the Panthers and that matchup, we'll head to our senior manager of youth football development, Austin Pasco, who catches up with the Saints High School Coach of the Week, Rob Poole from Church Point High School. Let's kick things off with Jake, head to Jen, and wrap it up with Austin and Rob. Jake, thanks so much for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. It is always great to have you. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Hey, doing good. We got this game coming up against the Panthers, so obviously why we're talking to you. And then we have a bye, so things will kind of get a little bit of a break for the Saints, but got to go out to Carolina and get a win first. What do we need to look out for with the Panthers and how they've been playing of late? Because they've been on a little bit of a roll here after starting 1-3.
Yeah, listen, I think Carolina, it's kind of been up and down, but a little more up than down, which is really a good thing compared to what we've been like in the past few years. Listen, coming off a huge win, Carolina is in Green Bay last week. Kind of took I don't want to say took the air out the ball, so to speak, but really kind of limited the possessions that Green Bay was able to have. Ran the ball really effectively with Rico Dowdle. And, it was a 2 turnover to 1 turnover game in our favor. So a +1 in Carolina's favor, and just played really good defense, really kind of stopped the run for Green Bay, had a couple of interceptions, had a fumble recovery when they were in the red zone, and then an interception. And yeah, it's you can see the growth is trending in the right direction in Carolina. I think that's one of the biggest things that you're starting to see. And then 2 weeks ago, you come off a few wins in a row, and then you play Buffalo at home, and really and truly we laid an egg. But we laid an egg in all 3 phases: special teams, offense, and defense. And yes, I understand Bryce didn't play. Andy played. Mm-hmm. He broke his thumb very early in that football game. So yeah, we can say excuses all we want, but that was a quality team that just got after us. So I think it's up and down in Carolina, but it's been more up as of late. Started the season out 0-2, more of a turnover situation on our end. Mm-hmm. But then things are turning around. So we'll see. Saints are coming in, and Aaron, the more I think about it, like, you watch film this week, and I don't feel the same way watching the 1-win Saints as I did watching the 0-5 Jets when we played them a few weeks back. I just thought with the Jets, like, hey, if we get a lead, we can play keep away. I don't feel that way watching the Saints play. I think this team, they've had some unfortunate things happen in games. They had a chance to beat Arizona early on. You watched them against Tampa 2 weeks ago. And even last week, the Rams are one of the better teams in the NFL. They play hard. Defensively, they play hard. Offensively, I thought Shuck did some good things. So, it's a division game. I think we all know what that means. And so it's going to be a tough task. And it's not like the Panthers are this team that they can say, oh, the Saints have 1 win, they're 1-8. Like, we just need to have our B game. That's not how this team approaches it, and that's not the reality, to be quite honest.
Yeah, a couple players that you mentioned that I want to follow up on. Rico Dowdle, obviously somebody that has stood out this season, moving into the RB1 role there for the Panthers, kind of unexpectedly. What has been just working so well for him in that run game?
Well, that's a good. I think it's a lot of it's him. Listen, our offensive line, we're going to be starting our eighth offensive line combination this
Mm.
weekend against the Saints. Pretty incredible, all the injuries we've had. But we went into the season with a ton of depth on the offensive line, so that's helped. But Rico, ever since Chuba went down, he had a couple of calf injuries. Rico's just been a He's a maniac when he's running the football, running through contact, breaking free, powerful run game. And I have to give Coach Canales a lot of credit. They had to bench Chuba in essence. Once he came back, they split
Mm.
time, and it just wasn't the same. And you kind of felt it for 2 weeks. Once Chuba came back, it's like one series on, one series off, and you could just see it. I have to give Canales credit. Hey, we're going to ride the hot hand, and Chuba hasn't pouted. He's a team guy, and that's why he's one of the leaders. So the receivers are blocking very well also, and that certainly helps the run game. The tight ends are very involved, but yeah, just a commitment to the run. I think that's one of the biggest things, and that's exactly where Coach Canales and this Carolina football team and offense. That's the world we want to live in. We want to run the football, be physical in the run game, take some shots in the pass game when we can, but we don't want to be a 30-plus passing football team if we don't have to.
And there's something that the Saints haven't quite been able to figure out yet is their run game and how to stay committed to it. They are getting down early in games, and I know the Panthers have been keeping people scoreless in the first quarter here this season. Defensively, what's changed with this Panthers squad?
Well, I think for us, compared to last year, historic records on defense, and not for the right reason, right? The most points and yards allowed. It hurt to be quite honest. It was painful watching last year. But Derek Brown to me has been the key. I think there's a few things. A healthy J.C. Horn has been tremendous, but getting Derek Brown and the commitment we made in the offseason of some reinforcements on the defense along the defensive line. But both linebackers, Trevin Wallace and Christian Roseboom, they switched responsibilities a few games ago with the green dot. Who's calling the plays?
Hmm.
It went from Christian to Trevin. And for whatever reason, Trevin's playing faster and Christian is playing faster. I think he's had over 12 tackles the last couple of games, and there's been a lot being made of it. And there's really no answer. You asked both of them, and Trevin said, "Look, I feel comfortable calling it." And Christian's deal is like, "Yeah, for whatever reason, I'm playing faster." So I don't know if the play coming in and him calling, making sure everyone's lined up, that I guess taken off of him has just
Mhm.
made him play freer. But yeah, that's been a huge deal. And J.C. Horn has done a fantastic job as one of the shutdown corners. We all know how talented he is. He's had a couple of unfortunate injuries along the way, but he's been healthy the last couple of years and really playing well. Mike Jack on the other side, a big physical corner. So, but I think it all starts up front. It's with Derek Brown, what he's been able to do against opposing offensive lines, in helping stop the run, getting holding penalties, getting a sack or two here or there. But the box score doesn't show the impact that he has on a game. I think that's
Mhm.
one of the biggest things.
When you go back to the other side, with Bryce Young, he hasn't had to necessarily have an amazing game for this team to win. A lot of it has been on the defense. He's led some late game scoring drives that have solidified the wins. How is he just kind of managing his role and basically doing enough for the Panthers to win?
Well, so last week's game that had a lot to do with weather factor. I mean, we won the toss last week and we took the football, and we took the football for a reason. We took it because the win. We were playing the win, and we were hoping it could be a fourth quarter game. We had the wind at our back to try to kick a game-winning field goal, and that's what it came down to.
Mm.
And so last week, two out of the four quarters, you really and truly weren't throwing the football. Um, but yeah, I think there's a ton of growth that I've seen with Bryce. And I don't think we're going to be that team that's going to be the 300-yard passing team week in and week out. We're so young at wide receiver. We've had so many different combinations up front, but we want to run the football. That's the DNA of this football team. And Bryce has done a really good job. He's had 9 fourth quarter comeback victories. He's done very well late in games. Early on in the season, we had some turnovers that kind of bit us the first couple of games early on. And so that's been kind of that's been that's been a lot better, I guess you could say,
Mhm.
on our end.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bryce, I think it's a natural progression. I think it's a growth mentality. We saw him play well toward the latter part of last year, and I think that's carried over this year. I just think we had injuries that kind of bit us early on this season in the first couple of games, but we've kind of backed up on that a little bit. The turnovers, and we're playing complementary football in the best way right now.
hmm You said that you've watched some film on the Saints. So what are you seeing from the Saints, the version under head coach Kellen Moore, and then even defensively Brandon Staley?
Well, listen, I think they're playing okay. I mean, I know people hate to hear that because there's one win, but listen, this team, I think going into the season, you didn't know what the quarterback situation was going to be. There
hmm
was some salary cap, ramifications that you're kind of dealing with, and I just think this team. I think there was 1 or 2 wins that you probably could have had already this season. That just a play wasn't made when it needed to be had. But I think this team plays tough. I think they play hard. I think they're well coached. I kind of like what they do schematically. I know defensively what Staley wants to do. It's kind of similar to what we want to do with Evero. That's the same tree and background in essence. I guess it all stems from the whole Vic Fangio
hmm
type of defense. And offensively, listen, this kid Shuck's going to grow each and every game, and I was a big fan of him watching him come out. One, he looks the part, right? The arm strength, the size, the height, the weight, everything. But also, he was so well coached in college by Jeff Brom. Such a big fan of Jeff Brom, and I know how they can develop and coach quarterbacks. So, I think this kid, uh, there's some talent there. And then he played a half a game a couple of weeks ago, and then he had the whole game last game, and very impressed in the 2-minute drive.
hmm
He made a couple of big plays in that drive. He took a monstrous hit where they had the roughing the passer, hung in there on the touchdown to Jawan Johnson. They played coverage. They backed up. He didn't force something in. And so I think you're seeing some growth. And I would continue to, you'd like to think you continue to see growth. Now, you trade Shaheed this week, right? And your left guard, Penny, he gets traded. So what's going to change? That's the unknown. That's what we
hmm
don't know, and what new wrinkle they're going to add to his plate this week. That's what Carolina's going to have to be prepared for.
Yeah, you don't have Trevor Penning anymore. And then also Taliese Fuaga, the right tackle, is going to be out for this game as well with an injury. So you definitely have some new people that are going to be moving in on the line. They've subbed people in and out a little bit this season. So it's not something we haven't dealt with, but something that I know does have an effect on the quarterback as well.
It does tremendously. And listen, I think we saw firsthand. I know I did firsthand in the 2000 in Bryce's rookie year, the 23 season. We had so many guys. It was a turnstile at the offensive line, just injury after injury. Bryce got sacked 66 times, and
hmm
then Dan Morgan made a huge commitment to the offensive line in 2024, and that solidified it. And you saw better play from Bryce. And like I said, we came in with like 9 of the top 9 guys from last year. We were able to bring back this past year, and gosh, we've needed all of them. I mean,
hmm
it's amazing the difference. So that can have an effect. And I know in the Panthers, like they hoping that they can cause problems up front. You want to make teams one dimensional in this football game, right?
hmm
Especially when a team can't run the football. So that's something we've done a pretty good job of stopping the run until 2 weeks ago. Buffalo kind of ran it right at us. James Cook had a field day. Excuse me. And the defense has addressed some of these issues, and they were a lot better last week in Green Bay. And that's what's going to have to continue. You love to make the young quarterback. In essence, that has to be the game plan, right? Make the young quarterback beat you, especially with 2 offensive linemen that are not playing, due to trade and one due to injury.
hmm I was going to ask you next what this game comes down to, but you kind of said it right there, trying to stop the run, trying to make somebody one-dimensional. What do you think it is going to come down to?
Well, I think turnovers are so crucial in this league, and I think that's what has hurt us so much. The first two games of the season, we turned the ball over in the first half. And so where the second half came around, we were a one-dimensional football team where we had to throw it. And then our loss to Buffalo a couple of weeks ago
Mhm.
in the red zone, we had a turnover in the red zone and we just couldn't convert. And before the half, we took a bad sack. We didn't get points before the half. And next thing you know, you don't capitalize on that against a good football team, and then Buffalo runs us out the building, so to speak. So that's going to be it's always turnovers. And can you limit it? Can you have long possessions? Can you have sustained drives? And don't settle for field goals in the red zone. That's such a critical facet of the NFL. Can you score touchdowns when you get down there?
Mhm. Well, Jake, I appreciate it. I always like your insight, especially when we have quarterbacks over here to talk about as well. So good stuff from you on Tyler Shuck and what we can expect in this game from the Panthers side of it as well. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of quarterbacks. I love when quarterbacks can have some success, and I do the radio for Carolina, so I hope Shuck plays well. But let's hope Carolina can play a little bit better. But yeah, I think Kellen's really doing a good job. Listen, I don't think this was a team that anyone thought would be contending for the playoffs this year, to be quite honest, going into the season. But they're still a quality team. They're playing well, and I know Carolina would love to keep them at one win after this week still.
Yeah. Well, we can differ on how we feel about that. But again, it is nice to talk to you. And I hope you have.
There's no doubt. There is no doubt. I'll see you this weekend.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Jen, thanks for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. It's good to have you back on a Saints game, even though we don't get it here at home, but it's going to be nice to have you on the call. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm excited to get to talk with you again and thrilled to have the Saints, regardless of what the record is. It's always a special treat to get to call the hometown team.
Absolutely. And you get a division matchup. It's only the second one for the Saints. They haven't had very many. And talking to some of the players, they put a little more emphasis on that. What have you seen in your time just covering the NFC South and how these teams do handle those division games?
Yeah, it's a wide open division, which is crazy to say. Tampa Bay looks like the leader in the clubhouse, that's for sure. But these Panthers have really surprised us lately. I've had them twice already this season. And boy, from where they started to now, their win streak is crazy. They're putting together a ton of good football. They're really technically sound defensively. And then their run game with Rico Dowdle. He is picking right up where he left off in Dallas. As if there was not missing a single beat. Over 700 rushing yards going into week 10, Erin, which is so impressive because he didn't start the season as the starter for the Panthers. It was Chuba Hubbard. And he kind of jumped up and snatched that job away from Chuba when Chuba was injured. So for the Saints this Sunday, I think it's going to be really critical that they try to keep him somewhat in check. And I'm very curious, of course, to see how Tyler Shuck follows up his initial debut for the Saints. Obviously, it was a tough game, a lot of 3-and-outs. You got to put together and sustain drives. But I didn't think it was all bad from Shuck. And I think this will be an easier go this Sunday, even though it's on the road. This Panthers front, not nearly as ferocious as that Rams front. So I think Tyler will have some opportunities. With trading away Raheed Shaheed, how much can he find Chris Olave? How much will the Saints offense be able to confuse or surprise this Panthers defense? That's what I'm circling to watch for that one.
The Panthers started building around a young quarterback in Bryce Young, and it wasn't smooth to start. And we've seen it with other quarterbacks in the NFL as well, just taking some time to develop. The Saints starting with Spencer Rattler this year and now moving to Tyler Shuck. I think that, yes, baptism by fire against the Rams, because that is a very difficult team to go up against. It may make things seem a little bit easier from here on out. But offensively, what do you think the Saints need to rely on to help him have a successful outing and just have success in general against the Panthers, whose defense has really been what's helped them in these games, keep them in? The win against Green Bay was hugely because of the defensive effort.
Yep, you're right. Defense and their run game. Bryce Young actually has not been a very efficient passer. He's only had one game with more than 200 yards. So for the Saints defense, put some pressure on Bryce. The passing game has not been their friend. I will say I expect that to be their point of emphasis. First of all, they have to handle coming off a huge upset win in Green Bay like pros. They've got to put together continuity. But if I'm that coaching staff, and I've gotten to know Dave Canales pretty well, They want to make it to the postseason. And when you look at where that team's at, what they need to do is figure out a way to get the air attack going, because they're doing well on the ground. They're doing well defensively, but you're going to need that passing game to come into play if you're going to make a postseason run. So I think that's going to be the point of emphasis for that Panthers offense, which means the defense for the Saints needs to step up and be prepared for that. As far as what the Saints offense needs to do, I want Tyler to have that same poise that he showed in LA. That was tough. Hostile territory, a really good team, bright lights of Los Angeles. That Panthers crowd, they are really excited. They're going to be a test as well. But again, that Panthers defense, although it's a very sound unit, it isn't the Rams defense. So he's going to have his opportunities. You got to get the ground game going. Alvin Kamara should be Tyler's best friend. How does the trading away of Trevor Penning help with run blocking? That's a big question. I want to see how Kamara handles that and how that Saints O-line steps up.
The Saints O-line now is going to be without three starters. If you look at Taliese Fuaga on the right side and then Trevor Penny in left guard, and we've been without Eric McCoy. So they definitely have had some moving pieces there, and communication is going to be key in order to not only protect Tyler Shuck, but then to block in the run scheme, and got to get that going, because that has definitely been an area that the Saints have struggled to rely on consistently this season. The Saints next week have a bye, and the Panthers are coming off a big emotional win at Green Bay. When you talk to teams, how much does the circumstances of the last week and then what's coming up the next week play into, maybe not even knowingly, but have an effect on the game that's in front of you?
It's a great question, Erin, because you know the line as well as I do. 1 week at a time, one game season. We hear it all the time. But that's so much easier said than done. Canales is finally having some success. Bryce Young, even though the passing game isn't where he wants it and where it needs to be, he's still winning games. And it's exciting for that squad. So they have to handle the success with maturity and humility and not get too far ahead of themselves. They've got the Saints schedule gets easier from here on out in theory, and the Panthers gets harder. They still have to face the Bucs twice. So right now they're sitting at second in the NFC South. There's a lot of dreams popping around all those heads, and that's fun. That's exciting. You want the fan base ignited, but they're really going to have to show their maturity and show their coaching staff's discipline to keep a hold of the team, so they don't start thinking ahead, overlooking the Saints, thinking about the Bucs coming up, thinking about they have a gauntlet of NFC opponents that are going to be standing between them and a postseason run, assuming the Bucs will likely get the number 1 seed and they'll be competing for a wild card. This is where the maturity of the team shows. And you've got a young head coach, you've got a young quarterback. This is going to be a big growing step for them. One way or another, it's going to be a learning lesson.
We have been seeing you all over the place this fall, not just in the NFL realm, but college football as well with Fox. And then on the weekends doing Fox and Friends in New York. So what do you have coming up this weekend besides this game, or maybe the rest of the month?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Fox has been expanding their college football portfolio, so I've gotten to do some double duty, college football on a Thursday or Friday, and then NFL on a Sunday, which is so much fun for me because I love the college football atmosphere. I actually was in Arizona at the ASU game where they rushed the field. And in all these years of working sidelines, I've never been part of a field rush working. I was part of one when I cheered at LSU way back in the day. So it has been a great experience. And I love the Fox and Friends stuff. I love getting to put the analyst hat on for a minute. And it's a great group over there. It's a lot of fun. It's professionally rewarding for me to get to have a toe in both worlds. I love and would never voluntarily give up the live game atmosphere. That's my passion, but it sure is fun to get to do a little studio as well.
Definitely. And I know every Thanksgiving time, Christmas time, you have a big event here at the Auction Sports Performance Facility in tandem with Mrs. Benson. So the toy drive is coming up, and I know we're all looking forward to that.
Yes, thank you so much for asking. We are fired up about this year. It's our 11th annual. It is in partnership with Gail Benson, and it's got everything. So for kids and for adults alike. Kim Jordan is going to be our MC. Juwan Johnson and his wife Chan are going to be our special guests of honor. We're going to be handing out almost $100,000 in scholarships to local academically excellent young females across the greater New Orleans area. We've got scholarships in Gail Benson's name, the wonderful late Nancy Parker, Chris Owens. So it's going to be a special night from that perspective, but then it's going to be a ton of fun. We've got 3 different bands, including Karma and PNC. We have a Santa's Adult Lounge, 21 and up, for our adult visitors. And then we have a ton of crafts, games, football drills for the kids in the other end zone. And the Saints cafeteria, thank you, Pigeon Caterers, and a ton of area restaurants who are donating food. You get to go and eat like a Saint. So it's a really unique experience to get to have that hands-on time on the Saints practice facility that you really wouldn't get anywhere else. Tickets $10 and $15, sidelinepass.org.
And is there anywhere that we can get them day of if you don't get them ahead of time?
Yeah, of course. And if for some reason, I'm remiss in saying what this event benefits besides the scholarships, provides gifts for children in foster care and group shelters, because the state doesn't provide for holiday gifts for them. So without us, they wouldn't have a Christmas, quite possibly. So if you can't come to the event, but you want to make sure you help a child have a better Christmas morning, you can go on our website. We've got an Amazon wish list, and you can choose your gift, and it'll ship right to them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. I look forward to the event and hearing you on the call this weekend.
Thanks, Erin. Always great to see you and talk to you.
You too.
What's going on, everybody? It is Coach AP. We are back for our Coach of the Week program. I am sitting here at Church Point High School with Coach Rod Poole. Coach, how we doing today?
Doing well.
So, the one thing that we want to do is we want to get to know who you are. This is our Coach of the Week thing, but I want to talk about it. So, you're from Mississippi. You kind of grew up in Tennessee, born in Tennessee, grew up in Mississippi. What was that like growing up in that atmosphere?
Well, my dad was a high school football coach, and he was the head coach at the school I went to for 26 years. So I grew up around the game. My uncle was a junior college coach at Holmes Community College. So, I just always around football, always around my dad and his players, being on the sideline and at practice all the time. So it just kind of got in my blood. And then when I got out of college, didn't really know what I wanted to do, but football kept pulling me, and finally just decided to go be a football coach.
And we were kind of chopping up a little bit about that because they were joking, like, don't wear your Alabama shirt today.
Right.
Whew, I don't know if people in Louisiana would like that too much, but it's one of those things where you were kind of talking about it, but if you want to elaborate, like, how you became that Alabama fan and that coaching call, like, how did that ultimately, like, make an impact on you?
Well, I mean, I think you always kind of emulate somebody, or you want to be like somebody that's bigger than you. And my dad and my uncle were big Alabama fans because of Bear Bryant. So growing up, we always watched Bama on TV. So I just became a Bama fan. So now that's all I know. So every Saturday I'm watching Bama.
I hear it. Ain't nothing wrong with it. So, like, how did you ultimately get into high school coaching, though?
Well, I did my student teaching at DeSoto Central High School in North Mississippi, and when I have an English major, so I was teaching English, and Coach Purnell, the football coach, he asked me to come help, so I coached wideouts for a year while I was student teaching, and then I got a job at Horn Lake coaching running backs with Coach Larry Gann, so I did that 2 years, and then my dad's former defensive coordinator, he took the job at Olive Branch, and then he called me and wanted me to come back, so he kind of got me going on offense, and then eventually I transitioned to being on the defensive side. So I wanted to be a coordinator, and I knew he was going to call plays. So I moved over to be the defensive coordinator, and then that's how I cut my teeth as a play caller.
And so the coaching is definitely in your blood from your pops and everything like that going on down to you. But so you're in Tennessee, you're in Mississippi. How the heck did you end up in Church Point, Louisiana?
Well, my wife's from around the Ville Platte area. She went to Bayou Chico High School. She went to UL Lafayette. She worked on her master's at LSU, so she wanted to move home and be around family because family's a big deal in Louisiana. So I told her if I could find a head job down here, we could go. And we came down to Mardi Gras and met some people, and they said Lafayette High was open. So I ended up reaching out to them and ended up getting that football job. So we transitioned our family down here. So it's been a good move for everybody.
And then you left Lafayette High to come here, right, to be the defense coordinator, I think, right?
Yeah, Coach Arsenault reached out to me. I was teaching English at Acadiana after I left Lafayette High, and Coach Arsenault reached out. And when I came, one of the things that drew me here was all the teachers were basically from Church Point. And it was like, well, if the teachers are from here and the principal and administration's from here, and a lot of the coaches are from here. It must be something special about it where nobody leaves. So that, and then it's a football community. I wanted to coach somewhere where football was a big deal, and it's always a big deal here. So that kind of sealed the deal. And then we had some really good players. Off that first team, all 3 D linemen are still playing college football right now. So they obviously have some really good players. That makes you a better coach if you got good players.
And so you're talking about like that culture, right? Like everyone that is, in the school system here is like from here. Like what has that like transitioned to you from like what you've seen in Mississippi or Tennessee and like coming here? Like what ultimately is like built that community for you in the football culture here at Church Point?
We're just going to buy into doing things the same way they had done it in terms of raising kids the right way and trying to get them to be a part of something that's bigger than them. But, the other part of that was being around different places. It kind of gives you a different perspective on, what works and what doesn't. And then if I can make some transitions and make it a little bit better than where you got it. Obviously it was really good when I got it, and so we're just trying to grow and stay good at football and try to keep developing good kids because, like I said, they all stay in Church Point. So the more you develop the kids and then they go into the community, the better community is.
Absolutely, and that's one thing like that I'll talk about. This is like you're talking about your dad, talking about Bear Bryant, talking about the community here. Like, what have you learned from Mississippi, Tennessee, now Louisiana, like a coaching philosophy that like truly fits you? Like, what is that for you?
I think I just try to be real with kids. Sometimes you have to be a little lenient when they make mistakes and try to teach them that you can't do that, and then you have to protect the brand. So if something happens and you got to dismiss somebody, but to me, the more you're real with them, they know you care about them, the more they're going to play hard on Friday night, and so they kind of understand that you're doing everything in their best interest, and so that trust is kind of built. So it's kind of all based on trust and us giving them a good plan so they can go execute.
And you talk about that, right? Like the culture and the trust and everything. You only have 6 seniors, right, on this football team?
Well, I think the 2020 COVID years kind of hurt middle school football because everybody was afraid to play because they didn't want to go through all the step through all the hoops. So we obviously had about 50 or 60 players on our football team in high school that year, but our middle school program kind of didn't get our teeth in them. So they didn't really play. And so when this senior class was freshmen, there was only like 20 of them, and they just didn't ever really, feel like football was for them. So as time's gone on, our numbers are increasing because we've kind of made more of an effort to get our middle school on campus in the summer and work and have camps and kind of be a part of what they're doing. So I feel like our program is not just 9 through 12, but it's 6 through 12. We want everybody to run the same stuff. We want everybody to have the same belief system. And so we're still trying to make strides to get better at that.
Right, and with that, I mean, like I said, you have 6 seniors, and you're building up that younger generation. You're sitting 7-2 right now. What's it going to do to get that 8-2 and then make it a deep, long run in the playoffs?
Well, I think it's a lot of times based on resources. I mean, we have 11 football coaches. We have administration that cares about scheduling and giving us what we need. So, everybody doesn't have that. Our days usually we don't have Church Point on our schedule. We don't have to beat ourselves. So, I feel like for the past couple of weeks, we've just really been concentrating on getting better and not worrying about who we're playing as much and try to get as good as you can because we can't just flip a switch when you get in the playoffs. You're going to have to lean back on your training. So just trying to improve week to week. I feel like we've gotten a lot better over the course of the year, especially on defense in the secondary. We've made some strides, so sometimes those losses are not the worst thing that can happen to you because it kind of shows you what you need to work on. So, just trying to be the best football team we can tomorrow, and then as a result, we'll get in the playoffs and maybe make a run.
And look, and senior night tomorrow, so it'll be a quick one. But you're wearing gold on gold tomorrow night, right. So we love seeing people wear gold as well. But look, Coach, as I said, you're our Coach of the Week this week. What does that mean for you and for this program?
I was surprised because you kind of just don't ever think about getting notoriety or getting people to recognize you. Just go to work and do what's best for everybody around you. So I appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. So look, any parting words you got for all of our fans, Coach?
I feel like Church Point's a good place. I think if people will watch us, they'll see that our kids work hard and they try to represent our town the right way. And we always say, "Go Bears."
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time, and we look forward to seeing what your team's going to do here in the state playoffs. Good luck again.
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody tuning into the podcast today. And as always, you can catch our pregame show 11 o'clock, an hour before kick on NewOrleansSaints.com. And then we'll have the postgame show with myself and Scott Shanley breaking down this game against the Panthers, what we hope is a victory before the Saints head into their bye week. Next week, we'll have a little bit different schedule with that bye week. We will only have a podcast on Monday for the latest from the game on Sunday, and then what to look forward to the rest of the season. Thanks so much for joining me right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets.